My name's Lillian Cruz, and I'm from Jigo. This is my sister-in-law, Eileen. I decided, I need to let them know their culture and where their heritage is from.
For my husband and I, it was more about self-identification and knowing who he is. And doing our part to preserve the language and the culture. And our son's name is Matua, and with a name like Matua, how can you not speak the language? And that was one of the main reasons why.
My grandson surprised me one day, and after 2 weeks, he goes, "Nana, can I have a notebook?" I said, "A notebook? What for?" He goes, "Oh, I want to use it to write some stuff at school." I said, "Okay." So sure enough, we're driving down to drop him to Chamorro Village, and he's writing all these words that he learned in class. And he's writing the Chamorro words and then translating it in English. I'm going, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of him. He's really embracing it. He really is.
I think it's the sense of pride, especially for my son, it's the sense of pride of identifying who he is, because he knows who he is now, and he would tell me in the car every time we go to Hurao, is Samoro-zo, mommy, Samoro-zo, and I'm like, Hunga and Samoro how? And he's so proud to be Samoro, he's so proud to speak, and he goes, I want to speak Chamorro, and for a 4-year-old to say that to me, that's amazing. He loves it. Hurao works, it really works, whether they're 4 or 10, whether they've never heard the language at all or they have. It really works, and the staff at Hurao, Anne Marie, they do a great job, and without them, we wouldn't have Hurao. Go mauleki pitaniha.
Pues hafere guahu si John Hernandez and esi agao si Janice.
Hafere guahu si Janice Hernandez. So tatendi y escola Hurao para 9 años hasta.
So being my wife and I, born and raised here, we always looked for a program, or wanted our kids to grow up in a program where we're helping to preserve the culture. And Hurao was the perfect venue for them. And that's how it all started back in 2005 or 6.
Just seeing how our language and our culture is dying, just knowing that people my age and even younger, that when we learn the language and we speak to all these manonko and even just speaking in public and showing people that our language is still trying to be kept alive from kids, that it's just, I don't know, it's just amazing to know that the language is still being kept alive.
Well, personally speaking, I am probably the proudest father out there to know that my kids understand and speak the language. And I give it back to to Hurao, for creating that foundation, for building that sense of islander pride, to let these kids know that our language is still there, our culture is still there, and we just have to build on it and strengthen it each and every day, which includes not only what they've learned from Hurao, but also incorporating it into our own lives at home.
Zangin shashanti na mamatai lengua himu zani kuturamu. Hano peri escola em Hurao sa sempre na go fazura how za zangin sinya zot sumogui sinya haun sopulakui.
In other words, if she can do it, you can too. Be about Hurao.
Hi, my name is Tony Babauta, former Assistant Secretary for the Department of the Interior, and this is my daughter.
My name is Gabrielle Babauta, and I've been attending Hurao for 3 years.
I think the Hurao Academy is unique because it's one of few organizations that are out there trying to revive the language of Guam and of the Marianas. We have other organizations that promote dance, that promote chanting, that promote getting back in touch with our heritage and getting back in touch with our culture. Oftentimes we pride our culture on simply the foods that we eat, how we gather, how we welcome people to our island and to our homes. It's more important to make sure that our culture lives on with language. That's the keystone, making sure that your culture lives on in perpetuity. And the professionals at the Hurao Academy, Saina, Anne Marie Arceo, and all the other teachers do a tremendous job on a shoestring budget to try to keep our culture and our language alive.
Hafde, Guahusi Trisha Lizama. I'm a professor of social work at Universidad Guam. I've been involved with Hurao for over 7 years because my eldest son is now going to be 11 years, and he started Hurao maybe when he was close to 5 years old. And so he has been to Hurao. My 9-year-old son just finished a session at Hurao. My daughter, who's 6 years old, is now still going, and then our 4-year-old son is now first time in the summer program, and he's been very excited. So we have one more child to go to put through Hurao. They just really embrace anybody, you know, whether you're Chamorro, whether you're new to the island, they just embrace everybody, you know, and they're so positive. And I've had in my life many experiences where people discourage me from trying to speak because it's broken or it's not, you know, correct in the way they see the language to be, and really that discouraged me in the beginning, you know. But I told myself, you know, for our language, for our culture, for my children, that no matter how hard it can be sometimes to put yourself in the framework to always practice, that I'm going to continue to do this, you know. And one experience that really just kind of, you know, the Chamorro word is fugu, right, when you have like goosebumps. It was I remember it was during Lent, and I had to pick up my kids early for a appointment, and I called Hurao, and they said, oh, you know, today they're going to be at the chapel, so you could just swing by the chapel. And when I went in, you know, of course I was quiet, they were praying, but they weren't just like saying, you know, Our Father or whatever. They were doing the Stations of the Cross in Chamorro, tiny, you know, little children, and I just stood there and I was like, like I wanted to cry. Like I felt very like humbled. Hurao is the only place on island, you know, where your children and adults can learn the language. I mean, and oftentimes, you know, I do hear people and they'll say, well, you know, but I have to pay for this and I have to, you know, do this, you know, tuition this. But if you want your children to be good swimmers, you're gonna pay for swim lessons. If your children need tutoring in English and math, you're gonna pay for those lessons, right? And I think it boils down, like everybody really needs to think and assess about what you value. You know, what is important to you, you know, and your family and your culture.
Havade, inano si Michael Luan Bavakwa, Professor Zugi UOG, Guados Pat Gonhu, si Sumahi, 7 años kwe, then si Akli, Chamam 5 años kwe. Then gi familian mami kada dia hufino chamaruru disia sa para haming gof importante este na lenguaje irencha gine ni mañana then para guahu gof importante na baihu na imot na este para famagonhu para famagoniha zen todo mona na gi gicham. Ever since the day that my kids were born, I've always spoken to them in Chamorro, no matter what we're talking about. Whether we're talking about how to train your dragon or we're talking about Angry Birds or whatever, it's always in Chamorro. But what I found is very difficult, though, is that even in the house, if we always speak Chamorro, when they go to school, everyone else speaks English. In their classes, everyone speaks English. With their cousins, everyone speaks English. And so there's almost sort of this sort of fear and insecurity, even if they know the language and they hear it all the time. There's this insecurity about it. And so my son, for example, even though I've only spoken Chamorro to him, he always speaks back to me in English. But this summer I enrolled him in Hurao, and for the first time he starts to speak back to me in Chamorro. It's always been up there in his head because he understands what I say to him, but he's always been so awkward and uncomfortable because he doesn't know any other kid his age who speaks Chamorro. But now at Hurao, he sees other kids speaking Chamorro. And in fact, he's proud. He has pride now. Hurao did wonders in terms of giving him some self-confidence. Because that's, for so many people with the Chamorro language, it's just like a lack of confidence. The language is in you. You've heard it your whole life. It's always been around you. But you really need confidence to just get over that hurdle and just start using it. And so I'm really grateful for Hurao that they've created this space where, you know, my children can be comfortable speaking the language and see other kids speaking the language too. And so what Hurao does is Hurao just gives us the chance to continue that journey in our own language. So, you know, we've gone 4,000 years speaking this language. We could go 1,000 more if we focus on really planting the seeds of the language in the children. And so for those people, like in my generation, who have kids who can't speak Chamorro, it's so difficult to plant those seeds, but that's why Hurao is such a beautiful place.